Joel Torres para Contralona, y en este momento me place presentar a alguien que es bien conocido aquí en la Isla del Encanto, Puerto Rico. Él es nada más y nada menos que directamente desde NWA Wrestling, Aron Stevens. How are you, sir?
Bien, ¿y tú?
Estoy muy bien, gracias a Dios. So,
de nada. And that's all the Spanish I know, so I just want to get that up front. So yeah,
I want to start speaking with you about Puerto Rico and your time here in the island, because you were part of WWC a few years ago. What did you remember learning in Puerto Rico that maybe you didn't learn in the wrestling business in the States?
One of, if not the most passionate fan base is, it's located right in Puerto Rico. I am so grateful to all the fans there that, again, they made my time there really special. And I was there for a year and a half straight, which is kind of a little bit longer than Americans stay. But Carlos was gracious enough, as was Jovica, to let me stay and kind of hone my craft, and of course went back to WWE. But they really just, like, and I say the fans, like, helped me become who I am. And it's funny because every time I've gone back there, they've remembered, and it's always a nice thing. I trace the performer that I am today back to this moment. And I was never super close with Carlos or Jovica. I was a good employee. They were very good to me, as good as I think they've treated anybody. But I wasn't, over their house having dinner or anything. And there would be weeks where I wouldn't even talk to them. But I came back, we were in Bayamon, and I remember that it was like Glamour Boy Shane had won the Puerto Rican title, and then I did an angle where I hit him from behind and really kind of, put the boots to him, shall we say, because we were going into, I think it was an anniversary show, or if not, it was either anniversary or Septiembre Negro, I think. Okay. And it was one of the two. And I got to the back. Carlos said, "Good job, Idol." Because I was Idol at the time. Yeah. I was Idol Stevens.
Yes.
I said, "Oh, boss, thank you. You saw it." And he laughed. He goes, "No." I went, "What?" He goes, "I've been in business for a very long time here. That angle, I'm counting on." He goes, "I never watch. I listen. If the people do what I want them to do, then I know it's going to work. If I watch, I'm a wrestler, right? Like, if you do something and it looked good or it looked bad, and like I'm be kind of biased, but the people get it. It's all that matters." And kind of like, I equate it to this like moment where like the sky broke and the light came down. I'm like, oh wow, and so that never ever left me, and that was just something I'm very very grateful, and I will always remember Carlos for that, and I will hold him in a very very high esteem, because although I didn't spend as much time talking to him, and like I don't ever think we ever had to talk about psychology or anything like that. It was just because from Rip Rogers, who had wrestled in Puerto Rico and is one of the best ring psychologists I've ever had the privilege of learning from. We had gotten the business, and like I knew what what works, what doesn't work, heel, baby face. It was just a matter of relaxing and understanding that as performers. And I think this is something that's lost in pro wrestling today. And in my opinion, there are no stars in wrestling anymore. I say no. There are a few. Okay. I don't want to like discredit everybody, but when you look at the up and comers, they go there and they do amazing, cool moves. And I never ever will discredit or discourage anyone. And like say, "Oh, don't do that move." No, if you can do a move I can't do, I'm not gonna hate. I'm like, no, that's cool. Let's make it mean something. You know what I mean? Fans today are reacting to displays of athleticism, not the people doing them.
Wow,
big difference.
Yeah,
big difference.
Yeah, And you mentioned something about Carlitos Colon that mm-hmm. I also watch him do, and that's listening to the fans. He wasn't even inside the court or the arena. He was always either backstage or either with Victor Jovica in the front, So listening, and when the house was very was something different. You know, that meant a lot.
It's everything.
Yeah.
And that's why, even like from an administrative standpoint, at NWA, and that's the reason I'm with NWA, is because it's the closest thing to that there is. And in terms of what we're trying to do, and it's there are times when the process can be, you know, take a little more effort than others. But overall, if you look at the trajectory we've been on, that old school wrestling style, you know, we call it wrestling in the U.S., but it's essentially the same style that is the reason that WWC has celebrated 50 years.
Yeah.
Because that's the kind of stuff that works in the long term. So
that's great. That's great. So talking about NWA, you were obviously a part of WWE a few years ago, and then other promotions. But now that you're part of NWA, I think you've been there like 3-4 years or something.
I've been there since the first power tapings, which is really when like kind of Billy, you know, kind of came back and said, all right, the NWA is it's here again. So yeah, I don't want to say since the beginning, because NWA is like 100 years old or something like that. But like since, and we call it the new Lightning One era, you know. So yeah, I've kind of been there since day one.
Awesome. So I think I read or I heard that you were trying to retire from pro wrestling to do something else. What motivated you to go back to pro wrestling?
Well, again, you know, there's I have a very, very short attention span. All wrestlers have ADD. Well, I have AADD, which is Aron Attention Deficit Disorder, which is a different, I'm telling you, I am on a different,
okay.
Like if you look at the different characters I've done, I mean, from a staunch intellectual to a person that wrestled the Invisible Man to like a karate man, like all these weird different things. It's because like I get bored real quick. I do. And to me, like I've always, like I approach this as an art form, and I never really, in that aspect, I guess I never really cared. Like you have a lot of people today that, a 5-star match. And in my opinion, if you're rating matches for a star rating, you're a mark. Straight up. I don't care who you, I mean, if this offends someone, this is how I believe, because I have spent my whole life learning the art of crowd manipulation. And I saw an interview where somebody was, they were discussing Hogan versus Rock.
Okay.
And someone said, oh, no, that wasn't a 5-star match. Well, you know what? Like, according to your standards, but according to the grand totality of pro wrestling, like, the star rating has taken the magic out of wrestling. Hogan and Andre going face to face. Okay? That's when people think of WrestleMania 3. Sorry. The body slam heard around the world.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay? Savage and Steamboat had the best technical wrestling match, right? With false finishes and everything. Hogan and Andre drew the house. Piper and Adonis had the best professional wrestling match. Not technical. Because if you listen to the crowd, at no point did they go like this. I think the match was maybe like 12 minutes or something like that, but it was a constant, they just kept going, and it kept building. It was timing. It was characters that people, it wasn't for a title. It was characters that people cared about. And again, like what we're trying to stress in NWA is like, do your stuff. I mean, look, athletically, you have to, like, stuff's going to change all the time, right? Like if I ever did go back in the ring, no, my style would have to change. Like and it would have to, because I would be doing not only myself, but the fans a disservice if I went out there and hit like Damien Sandow's greatest hits. No, that's resting on your laurels, and you don't do that. Now, would I incorporate some Sandow stuff? Of course, because it's part of who I am. But personally, my character is like a snowball, and I am a collection of every different persona that I've been. Yeah. But and the thing is, what people don't understand, right? Like people say, oh, well, you never had a career where this or that. No, but if you listen to fan reactions, I've gotten 5-star reactions pretty much since first time I was in WWE, you know, and even in Puerto Rico towards the end. Yeah. So that's how I judge myself. And when you have never bled for this, when you don't know what it's like to be on the road for 10 days in a car and, you know, just you're with your buddies and you just got to get to the next town and the only option you have is Waffle House at, you know, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 a.m. And it's a matter of, do we want to stop and eat or do we want to get some, you know, an hour extra sleep, right? Because you have to perform the next day. You have to go to the gym. And when someone wants to hand out star ratings, because, you know, look, if you want to go judge gymnastics, hand out 5 stars for gymnastics. Because as far as I'm concerned, that's a failed gymnastics judge. And I mean anyone who rates this according to that. You know, there is a place for, I mean, athleticism, it's awesome. And I'm not discrediting any athlete. But that 5-star mentality and, you know, that whole, like, putting that lens. And when you view pro wrestling through that lens, that's why when you look at mainstream, the numbers are down. Why during the 90s, and even let's go the late 90s and the 80s? Because people cared about the characters.
Exactly.
Yeah, Stone Cold never had a 5-star match, but you know what? If you look at some other people that may have had, and I don't want to mention any names because the thing is, I'm not going to throw any of the boys under the bus because there's way better athletes than me at this. You know, there's tons. But, like, you look at some of those guys that did all the cool stuff, right, that would be considered 5-star matches, half the people wouldn't remember them. People still remember Stone Cold, still remember Rock, still remember Hogan. Pro wrestling in North America, right, to a North American audience, and I include Puerto Rico in this, very much so, because that's, you know, Carlos and Jovica started up in Canada, and the style that they learned really heavily influenced. And I always said that Puerto Rican fans, they are very, very similar to Memphis fans.
Wow.
They like the, you know what I mean, the fist fighting.
Yes.
And they like that stuff. But they also, you know, you can give them a little bit of ha-ha, you know, the gaga stuff, as we say. But they love that intense. And that's, it's very, very similar. And again, like, I've done fire matches. I've done ladder matches. And, like, and that's the thing where people are like, oh, well, Ms. Dow was comedy. Yeah, but if you look at my Sandow stuff, I've done street fights. I've had, I mean, knockdown dragouts for the world title. I mean, you look at my Puerto Rico stuff, you know, the ladder matches, I mean, God, you know, that, like, I can fully stand behind my body of work, as the American Dream Dusty would say. And if I am the performer that can adapt to any situation, and, you know, so be it. Because I judge my career based on the fans' reactions. And it's cool because I took some time off from, you know, before NWA, I was actually acting. I was in Hawaii. I was doing an episode of Magnum P.I., the TV show. When they called me to come back to NWA, I'm like, oh, no. Well, you already got a plane ticket. Come on. And then, you know, we showed up to Georgia, and it was the old school studio, and it looked like, you know, 1985 updated, so to speak.
Yeah.
And, you know, when I showed out, my reaction spoke for itself. And that essentially is, you know, what I've judged. Because fans are the ultimate arbiter of a good or a bad match. Not someone handing out stars like it's grammar school. You know, you get a gold star, you get 5 gold stars, huh? No, how about do a week, you know, on the road. 1 loop. You know, maybe you'll judge matches a little differently. You know, you can say, oh, I'm an insider. Now, if you haven't bled for this, if you haven't, like that travel situation that I'm talking about, you know, people going through family problems, if you haven't missed a relative's funeral, wedding, birthday for this, you are in no position to judge anyone. Because ultimately, you know, that mentality has taken food off some of the boys. And, you know, I say boys, I know that's kind of dated, but, like, boys and girls plates that do this.
Yeah.
And if that's the way it's going right now, so be it. But guess what? Not as many people are watching. And I've always said this, when you do it the right way, no matter who you are, it's a different kind of reaction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. I agree with that. Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing. So, Aron, this has been great. I want to thank you for this opportunity. It's been great talking to you again here in Contralona. And to end this interview, as I always say to all the pro wrestlers, a quick message to the fans in Puerto Rico and Latin America and around the world that are watching you right now.
Gracias por todo. You guys shaped who I am. You're all a very big part of shaping who I am. It has been a pleasure to be able to perform in front of all of you, and I hope to be able to perform in front of all of you soon. So, gracias.
Qué bueno. Gracias a ti, Aron. Thank you so much for being here with me in Contralona. Aron Stevens, Damien Sandow, Idol Stevens. Lo vieron aquí donde más, en Contralona, conectando la lucha libre contigo.